And we are back for another episode of Pack Sports Zone. I'm your host, Peter Pac-Man Clark, and we're back after a week off of lots of stuff going on in professional sports. Obviously, the Astros won their World Series in the 6 games, but the thing that really is going on right now is how New York sports is going on, and the Giants continue to win. They did take a loss last week, which kind of pushed them back a little bit, 2 weeks ago. But the point is, they beat the Texans coming off their bye. They played a good game, actually, I think. Daniel Jones was 13 out of 17, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. They ran Saquon Barkley into the ground. He had 35 carries, 152 yards and a touchdown. Darius Slayton caught some bombs in that game. He caught like a 30-yard bomb, a 50-yard bomb. So he had 95 yards and a touchdown. So overall, they did what they had to do. They led most of the game, I would say, by 11 points, and it was back and forth for field goals. But they held on to win that game 24-16. And the Giants, like I said, they're playing well right now. They're 7-2. They're one of the teams that you obviously have to take serious now. They're a team that at the start of the year, they win a couple games. They started, when are they going to come back to earth? They had that 4-game win streak, then they lost a game, and they're like, all right, eventually they're going to come back to earth. But they're finding a way to win games. Daniel Jones is actually playing more efficiently than he was before, and that's actually pretty big. He had stopped turning over the ball as much as he has this year, which is good, but he's playing more efficient in the past couple games. I would say in the last 3-4 games, he's played much more efficient than he has previously. He still isn't throwing for a lot of yards, but I mean, stats don't really matter. All that matters is that you contribute in terms of winning. And his legs have really been a big part of them winning games. He had another 24 yards off 5 carries this week, but that's how you beat Houston. Houston's the type of team that you just got to run it down their throats. We saw Derrick Henry run for 219 yards off them. Saw now Saquon run for 152. We've seen a bunch of teams I say 4 or 5 running backs have ran for about near to 150 off them this year. So that's how you beat Houston. You just completely run it down their throats. And now you look towards this week, and the Giants are going against the Detroit Lions. But it's something that they really have to hope that they don't look past the Lions, as they will be on Thanksgiving Day against the Dallas Cowboys. First time they've been on Thanksgiving Day since 1992. So it's been a very long time since the Giants have had a game to play on the Thursday of Thanksgiving. So they have to hope they don't look past the Lions, who's a team that they should beat. I expect them actually to beat the Lions. The Lions now, if you look at the Lions, They have a good running back system because they have Jamal Williams, they have DeAndre Swift, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver. We'll see who's going to be their second wide receiver because Josh Reynolds has been hurt. Obviously, DJ Chark has been out for most of the year. Their first round pick, Williams is out. Hasn't come back yet. So, Khalif Raymond has actually been playing on the outside for them and started for the past couple of weeks. So, the Lions are coming in a little bit hurt, but they still can put the ball in the end zone. We saw them beat the Green Bay Packers a couple of weeks ago. So they're still at least a threat. So you do have to watch out their offense. Now their defense is not good. And that's why the Giants need to continue pretty much like they did this week. Run the ball a lot. Daniel Jones uses his legs. They should be able to put up points this week. I'd be disappointed if the Giants didn't put up 24, 27 points this week, as they really should be able to move the ball against the Detroit Lions. And then you're looking towards next week. I'll be on again before the Thanksgiving game to give a preview on the Cowboys and Giants game, but you've just got to make sure you don't look ahead. The Giants haven't been good, especially this good, in a while. They can't afford to be looking forward at games before they finish what's ahead of them. So hopefully they'll be able to beat the Detroit Lions this week, and then they'll move on to that Thanksgiving Day game against the Cowboys at 4:30. Now, talking about the New York Jets. Now, the Jets had a bye this past week after beating upset against the Buffalo Bills. And now they're going to be playing against the team that they lost to just a few weeks ago, the New England Patriots, in what was a close game at the time. But because I was out last week, I got to tell you guys, it was just an unbelievable effort by the Jet defense against the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, that was the game that that they said he hurt his elbow in, but didn't look like it happened till late in the game. The point is that the defense was unbelievable that game. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, they completely were dominant on the outside. You didn't hear too much from Stephon Diggs. Now, he started out the game good. He had 2 or 3 catches for about 40, 50 yards to start out that game pretty early. But then when you look at when everything is done, he ends up 5 catches, 93 yards, no touchdowns. If you can hold Stephon Diggs to that, you did a good job. And nobody else did anything. Their next highest receiver was Gabe Davis, 2 catches, 33 yards. So it was pretty much let's contain Stephon Diggs and shut down everybody else, and they did that. And we all know that the Buffalo Bills don't like to run the ball, and I think that's something that could hurt them, especially as you get into playoff time. You look at Devin Singletary, 8 carries, 24 yards. James Cook, 4 carries, 15 yards. That's not going to win you a Super Bowl being able to run that much. Obviously, their main runner, Josh Allen, 9 carries, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. But are you really going to be happy with him as the guy? Listen, you're a team that's supposed to be good. You're going to have leads in the playoffs. You got to be able to run out the clock. You can't continue to just pass the ball, make mistakes, or you're going to run into a team like how the Jets did today, be able to stop your passing game. And now you're in a close game, and then everything's getting a little tighter, and the throws can come out a little bit weird. And the interceptions that Allen had that game, he had 2 interceptions, no passing touchdowns. So everything can change when you're in a close game late, especially when it's playoff time. So speaking about the Jets offense, still not sold on Zach Wilson. That game he played okay, 18 for 25, 150 yards, touchdown. But he's still got to play better. And if he doesn't start playing better, the Jets are going to have a really, really tough decision in the offseason. Michael Carter ran good, but only 12 carries, 76 yards. They traded for James Robinson. He came in. He got 13 carries, 48 yards. So their offense really didn't do anything other than Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson had 8 catches for 92 yards. That was very good. He's starting to step up and be that true number 1 that they really need. But on defense, that was where it's about. The defense really shut down the Buffalo Bills that game. And with that, now having to bye, as I said, now they come to face the New England Patriots. We all know about them. They're a division rival. They're a team that pretty much is in close games, but always beats the Jets when it comes down to it. And that was kind of the signature of what it was a few weeks ago when the Patriots found a way to come into the Meadowlands and win that game. So now Jets have to go to Foxborough and try to return the favor. It's so tough how they play because Patriots, they run the ball and they play defense. Mac Jones is not that big of their offenses. They run the ball and they play defense. That's kind of how the Jets have to play. And so it's almost that the Jets have to beat the Patriots at their own game. And that's usually very hard to do, but that's what they're going to have to do if they want to win that game. And it's a game that's going to be a close game. It's a winnable game because I don't think the Patriots are that good. So it is a winnable game. The question just is, can Zach Wilson make enough plays? Because one thing that Bill Belichick has done, and you can see this with all the people that have left the Bill Belichick tree that actually have done okay, like whether Mike Vrabel, people like that, they find a way to take away the other team's best weapon. And going against the Jets, if you look at their team, it's pretty much to stop the running game. Because yes, Garrett Wilson can play well, but you're going to make Zach Wilson beat you. And if Zach Wilson can't beat you or make enough plays to get them to win, Patriots are going to walk away with another win, and the Jets will be going at 6-4. So that'll be a good game coming up this coming week. But we got to talk about the Tennessee Titans that are playing tonight. Tennessee Titans play the Green Bay Packers. They're coming off a game against the Denver Broncos, which was the typical Tennessee Titans game. Low scoring. Offense was actually not horrible as Ryan Tannehill threw for 250 and 2 touchdowns. The King, Derrick Henry, had 19 carries for 53 yards, so he didn't play that well. But listen, I know Todd Downing, every single Titans fan wants Todd Downing fired. I don't think he's the right person for the job. However, he had some good play calls that got them these points. The flea flicker was a perfect thing. They run play action all the time. That's what usually brings most of the points for the Titans is off play action. So what better play action than actually giving Derrick Henry the ball? And once he has the ball, everybody's going to be sucked up. That's the ultimate play action. You throw it back to him. Westbrook had 20 yards of separation on that play. There was nobody near to Nick Westbrook Aquina on that play. He was so wide open that he just don't drop the ball. That's pretty much what it was. And then obviously later in the game, once again, play action, a wide open. He had about 5-6 yards of separation and he scored 2 touchdowns. Offense is still not good, but they were able to get big plays, and that's how they scored their touchdowns. But their defense is just ridiculous. They've had 77 QB pressures in the past 2 weeks. That is, the second place is like 40. So they are so much better, right? And they're playing with their third string guys. Bud Dupree wasn't out there last week. Cunningham is on IR. Simmons wasn't out there last week, and he's probably the number two interior defensive lineman in football right now. And we already know Harold Landry, their best pass rusher from last year, is out for the year. And then you take Armani Hooker, there's one of their star safeties, he's out. You take their best cornerback, Christian Fulton, he's out. And it just doesn't matter. They just bring in the next man up and he produces. Mario Edwards getting to the quarterback. Han getting to the quarterback. People just find a way. They're one of those teams that they're always going to have injuries, and people don't understand. And you always see on Twitter, why do we get more injuries? Why do Titans fans always say that the team gets hurt a lot? It's because they practice hard and they play hard. They play a physical style of football, and they practice it. They practice hard. So people, their bodies are broken up. But the point is, when you do that, your depth, the third stringers, they get into it. They have to, because if they don't get into it and they don't take the physical punishment in practice, they're not going to be able to play like this when the game starts. And people like Hand and people like Mario Edwards and people like that, those guys are not the starters. Mario Edwards wasn't even supposed to be the backup. But the point is, they're playing now and they're producing and they're playing like legit starters. And it's because it's just the way that this group plays together. They just play hard. They're going to come after you and they're going to hit you in the face and see how you react. And that's pretty much how they're always going to play under Mike Vrabel. So it's going to lead to injuries because people are playing so hard. But the point is that when people are hurt, the backups step up and you don't lose too much. Now, that's not going to work at every position. That's best for offensive line and defensive line, but they just lack the talent on offensive line. And they obviously don't have the wide receivers that would normally create separation. And that's including somebody who, in Robert Woods, that was supposed to be the guy this year. He was supposed to be the one to lead all the young guys. He was supposed to set the example, and he has not played well. He had 2 catches for 10 yards in that game. Listen, if you have to ask me right now Treylon Burks came back. He had 3 catches, 24 yards. He will be a legit starter on this team, and he's going to be a good wide receiver. If you had to ask me what my wide receivers will look like next year on this team, the only one who will be there is probably Treylon Burks, because you need a number 1 wide receiver. Then Treylon Burks can be a starter at number 2. When he comes back from injury, Phillips may be either a 3 or a 4. You need another speed wide receiver on the outside to be a vertical threat on this team. And then you can finally talk about somebody like Westbrook being a number 5 on this team. And you can have somebody else be like a punt returner or something like that if Phillips doesn't make up for what he did this year with the fumbling. So you got to change around this team because they're not getting separation. Now, I have to say that Chig Okonkwo, he's playing very well at tight end, but he's just not getting enough touches. He's getting like 2 touches a game, but he's producing with those 2 touches. He only had 1 catch this game. It was a 41-yard catch. Against KC, we saw he had to catch like the first offensive play of the game, and he ran that for like 50 yards. So when he's touching the ball, he's getting big plays. He's just not touching the ball enough. So the Titans got to find a way to get the ball in their tight ends' hands, because their tight end seems to be much better than their wide receivers in terms of creating separation. And Shigo Kwan, who it seems to be the best guy on the team in terms of getting separation of everybody. So they need to start finding a way to get him the ball and pretty much make him the center of the passing offense right now, as crazy as that sounds. Derrick Henry has to be better than he was last week, but you know what? If you ask Derrick Henry, if you say 200 yards and a loss or 50 yards and a win, he's going to say, I'll take 50 yards and a win. That's what type of guy he is. So don't have to really worry about him at all. He'll be fine. But the biggest part is getting big plays because the defense is going to be there. They're going to find a way to keep the game close, keep them around 20 points. And by the way, the Titans can't even get 20 points recently. That's kind of the sad thing about it, is you look at their schedule for the past couple games, and they've been struggling to get 20 points. So you can't just let the defense suffer like this with how they've been playing. You got to be able to play better than this. I mean, you go back a couple weeks against Commanders, they had 21 points. But since then, they had 20 points versus the Colts. They had 17 versus the Texans. You had 17 versus the Chiefs. And then you had 17 versus the Broncos. Now, they won 3 of those 4 games. That's the weird thing about it, because the defense has been so good. They've held the Colts. They held the Colts to 10 points. They held the Texans to 10 points. The Chiefs, they gave up 20. They should have won that game if it wasn't for bad officiating. And then they held the Broncos to 10 points. So the defense has been unbelievable over the last month. But they can't continue to do this. Now they're going against the Green Bay Packers. Packers have also been struggling on offense. They found a way to wake up for the last, I would say, 8 to 10 minutes of the game against Dallas. Rodgers only threw 20 passes, so that tells you how weird that offense is right now. They're going to run the ball with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, mostly Aaron Jones. Titans have probably one of the best, if not the best, run defense in the league, so that's going to force Green Bay to pass the ball. And these are 2 teams that have really, really bad wide receiving cores. Now, Green Bay's wide receiving core has more talent because they have second round pick Christian Watson. They have Alan Lazard, who's a veteran who's been there for a while. So they do have talent, more talent there in terms of higher draft picks and more people with a little bit more experience for stepping up, being in a top role than other than Robert Woods. But like I said, Robert Woods isn't playing well. Christian Watson had 4 catches for 3 touchdowns last week. He played very good in that game versus Dallas, caught a bunch of bombs from Aaron Rodgers late in that game. 2 bombs late, which helped them win the game and upset Dallas. So we'll see what happens in this week, happening tonight. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be one of those games where I think Tennessee probably is either down a touchdown or 3 points, or maybe even up 3 points with about 2 minutes to go in the game, and Aaron Rodgers has the ball and has a chance to either put them away, or maybe the defense steps up and stops them. But it's going to be one of those 1-possession games with about 2-3 minutes to go. I really do think it's going to be and I think it'll be a low-scoring game too. I don't think that either team is going to put up 30 points. I don't even think either team is going to put up 24 points. So this will be right in that 20-point range for the Titans. But they always win a bunch of close games, and that's the thing. Can they win another close game tonight? But that'll be a good, interesting game for tonight. That'll start in about 2.5 hours. But right before I'll get to it first, the basketball. Just quickly before I talk a little bit about a boxing fight that has been made, as well as USA Soccer. But Brooklyn Nets 6-9 now. They did lose 2 in a row. Lakers and Kings, 2 bad losses. This week they did hire Jacques Vaughn as their official coach, so he will be their coach for the rest of this year unless something happens. They are shooting a little bit better, and they are playing a little bit better overall. Durant's still doing his thing, 30 points per game. But the big thing is, over this little stretch where they're playing better, it has been without Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, who at the time they said was going to be suspended for at least 5 games. Tonight they're going to be playing against Portland. That'll be the 8th game that he misses, so it'll be 8-game suspension. And then Sunday, there is a rumor that he may be coming back for Sunday against the Memphis Grizzlies. But 4 of the next 5 for the Nets are on the road, so it's a tough challenge. That they need the talent of Kyrie, but right now, he brings so much baggage to the team. And so you almost have to wonder, is it making him worse? Is he messing up the chemistry? Because they've actually been playing pretty good. As I said, they had 2 losses in a row that are bad losses, but tonight, I would say the game against Portland is going to tell you. If they lose to Portland, then you can tell they really need Kyrie. If they're able to beat Portland, I mean, yeah, you bring Kyrie back, but maybe you should think about trading him. Maybe you can see what you can get for him, because it may not be working with the Kyrie and Kevin Durant combination. The Knicks, on the other hand, they're 8-7, so they're actually above 500. They've won 2 in a row to get to that, and they're in the middle of a 5-game road trip over on the West Coast. They beat Utah and Denver, so 2 big wins against games that they weren't supposed to win. Jalen Brunson is averaging 27-4 this year. Randall's averaging 21-9. RJ Barrett averaging 18-5, but he's not shooting well. He's shooting just above 40%. At least the other guys they're shooting, I think Randall's about 46-47%, and Brunson's like 49-50%. But right at 40% is RJ, so he needs to start shooting better. The team overall is not shooting better, especially from 3. They're 29th in the league, shooting on a 32% from 3-point range. They're going to finish off this road trip with Golden State tomorrow night, then the Phoenix Suns, and then OKC on Monday. So, tough games to go for this rest of this road trip. We'll see what happens with them. The Knicks just they got to get some shooters in there. That's the main thing for them right now. They don't have any shooters. You have guys who can drive the ball. You have guys who could do damage inside, whether Barrett has to drive, whether it's Randall on the inside, whether it's Brunson driving and kicking or doing whatever. But they just don't have enough in terms of outside shooting. And it's really bad when you're paying somebody like Evan Fournier that much money, and he can't even get on the field because can't even get on the court because he's playing so bad. This is not going to be the next year. They're close. They got maybe 1 or 2 more things they have to do, but one of those 2 things is definitely some shooting. They got to add some shooting to their team. Quick talk on boxing. Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis looks to be official for next year. Couple guys are saying that it looks like that they're aiming for April, but I have to say this, 5 months is a very long time, and it's pretty much a long time for something to happen, whether it's an injury, whether it's somebody backing out or something. That's the problem with the boxing right now. It's just everything is marinated so long and delayed so long that who knows what's going to happen. I mean, Tank is going to fight another fight in January now. It's pretty much a warm-up fight, but the point is that anything can happen. Anybody could get injured. You can get a cut eye. Something can happen. Something can always happen, and then all of a sudden that fight is pushed back. It's crazy that some of the things that happen in boxing, that they couldn't even put a date. They said it's going to be in Las Vegas, and then they said next year. They didn't say a month, even though, like I said, it's being rumored that it will be in April. They didn't say a month. You didn't say an exact date. You didn't say a venue. But yet the fight, they said is done. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we did hear the same thing with Crawford and Spence, that the fight was pretty much done and that they both agreed to terms, and that didn't really go through. So we'll see. And just a quick comment on those 2. I mean, yes, they're going to be both Hall of Famers, and I understand they had the interview this week with Crawford where he said that he's fine with his legacy and everything, but I mean, it's really kind of weird that people that boxing, and now you really are getting put into the Hall of Fame because of how good people think you are, not because of the people you've beaten. I mean, you look through Spence's resume, you look through Crawford's resume, and compare it to the resumes of the all-time greats from back in the day. And I mean, not even all-time great. You go and look at somebody like Tim Bradley, and you look at his resume. So I'm not even talking about Pacquiao, I'm not even talking about Mayweather. You look at like Tim Bradley, and you look at his resume compared to the resumes of Crawford and Spence right now, and it's laughable. It really is. You can't really think of one like standout fight, and it's because they're not fighting people that are on their level. They are the only 2 people on their level right now, and they're not even fighting. So it's like, just continue to talk on Twitter and say I'm better than you, and who cares now? If you're not in the ring, it doesn't really matter. But one thing that definitely does matter is USA Soccer, as the World Cup is about to begin on Sunday. Qatar versus Ecuador. It will be the only game on Sunday, and then there'll be 3 more games on Monday, which will include the United States versus Wales. Now, let me tell you how big this game is going to be. First of all, you're going to have companies. Remember this, I'm not going to say the name of my company, but I've had previous employers that have said you can stop working and go into this big giant room, and it's like an auditorium room, and they have 2 giant screens where you can actually watch the game. That's what happened 8 years ago for soccer when the World Cup starts. This game is the biggest game for United States, and I'll tell you why. They're probably not going to beat England. They're not as good as England. England has just too much. They have great forwards. They have people that know how to finish. They have more experience. England's going to beat the United States. United States is going to beat Iran just because they're going to put up a fight, but they're not as talented as the United States roster. Same thing with Wales. Wales is going to lose to England, and they're going to beat Iran. So England's going to move on into the group stage. They're past the group stage, and they're going to be fine. Iran's going to be out. It's between United States and Wales. So whoever wins this game on Monday at 2 o'clock is probably going to move on to the next stage, to the knockout round when it's down to 16 teams. That would be a huge plus for the United States. If the United States gets out of the group, you know what? That's all the expectations you should have for them, because you're not going to have expectations that the United States makes the quarterfinals or that makes that Elite Eight and stuff. You just want them to get out of the group stage, and then they're not disappointed. Now, if they were to not get out of the group stage, then you say, yeah, you're disappointed with that. But they need to be able to win this game to guarantee they get out of the group stage. Now, with that being said, I think it could be a good chance that it could be a draw. If there is a draw, then if the scenario happens that I said where they both lose to England, they both beat Iran, then it's going to come down to goal differential, pretty much who could beat up on Iran and not lose to England as bad. And it's going to be really, really close to that. So if United States wants people to start taking them serious, they have to go out there and win this game on Monday at 2 o'clock. There's 3 games, obviously, for people that don't know, that will be in this first stage, in this group stage. They'll be playing against England on Friday at 2 o'clock, and then they'll be playing against Iran on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. So all the games are at 2 o'clock. There's a 3-day rest between every single game. And U.S., there's a lot of hype for them this year. Even as I'm talking right now, there's a commercial being played for them right now. And you're seeing commercials all over. You're getting to know the players, McKinney and Pulisic and Adams, and you're starting to see these players. They're doing the stories on them, the local kid. Everything's starting to show out for them. You can't get knocked down this group stage. You have to find a way to make it out. And it all starts on Monday at 2 o'clock against Wales. So that's going to be a good game. I'm definitely going to be watching that game. If you plan to go out to a bar or wherever to watch that game, get there early, because they're already talking about on the news that these bars are making sure people are coming in on Monday because they know that it's going to be filled with people wanting to watch the game at 2 o'clock. It's going to be a big event. It really is. So I would suggest that, as I said, if you want to see that game, you've got to find a way to get to a bar or watch it at home and just enjoy that game. So United States versus Wales, 2 o'clock. That will decide possibly if the United States gets out of the group stage. And then I'll be updating again you in the next week. As I said, I'll get to you guys before Thanksgiving. So probably right after that game on what Iran played on Tuesday, I'll get to you guys on Wednesday probably next week to update more. We'll talk about, obviously, the usual New York stuff, how everybody did, preview the Giants versus the Cowboys, and then you can get ready for some Thanksgiving dinner and all that stuff. But I'm your host, Peter Pac-Man Clark, the Sports God, and we'll catch you next week, another episode of Pac Sports Zone. And just for you wrestling fans out there, you got Full Gear this weekend. I will be there, Prudential Center in Newark. Enjoy your wrestling out there for that too. We'll catch you next week.